Gaming addiction cases in Singapore have gone up by a third since the pandemic. Therapists and counsellors say more than 4 in 5 cases are youths, particularly students. Now, they have attributed this to more enticing games in recent years and the prevalence of smart devices in everyday use. They are also receiving at least 30% more complaints from concerned parents. Muhammad Bahajaj with more.
Too much of a fun thing can turn into an addiction. One local addiction recovery center has seen around a 30% jump in gaming addiction cases since 2019. As many as 90% of its patients are youths. It's an even bigger concern now, with smart devices being part of everyday life. Also, the gaming landscape has changed.
Games in the past and games now are different. For example, in the past, video games business strategy is just to sell the game and that's it. Yeah, but these days, because of the connectivity and the power of our processors and internet connection, there's microtransaction. Now it's like a norm thing where people spend hundreds of dollars on video games.
One psychologist says symptoms of gaming addiction include social isolation, and when games are removed or devices taken away, some youths can become irritable and aggressive. They are even willing to forego sleep, hygiene, and food just to keep playing. The addiction could stem from coping with underlying issues like stress, low self-esteem, and traumatic events in the family.
There's one of these cases that I have, and he was on the computer for an extensive amount of time, and to the point that he even failed out of college. So he bought all the different gadgets, to facilitate his playing. So all his allowances, his money, his time, his sleep would go into gaming. And his reason is that, I'm very stressed at school. But, he escapes into that and doesn't go to school at all.
One expert says that overcoming gaming addiction requires addressing these underlying issues with a long-term approach. It is also about building a space of trust for patients to open up, even if it begins online.
We engineer a world in the Minecraft space where we can actually play with them, speak their lingo, right, and work with them on some skills that they need to have. For example, understanding their own emotion. Real, authentic relationships in the real world also do matter. And I think that we need to reach out to them to be able to show that there are people who do care for them.
Impart adds that it is important for parents to regulate screen time rather than remove digital devices entirely. This can help to avoid feelings of isolation, which can worsen conditions. This is because digital platforms have become a space for youth to socialize and connect.
And for more on this, we're joined by Tom Maniatis, Senior Psychotherapist for Addictions at Promises Healthcare. Mr. Maniatis, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So there is hikikomori in Japan, rat people in China. These are some of the social withdrawal trends that we are seeing in other countries. But what about Singapore? Are we seeing similar patterns, or do we even have our own phenomena?
I think we do. There's definitely a cohort of clients and young people that's, kind of shut reality out, stay in the bedrooms and not go out. But maybe not as bad as with Japan or other countries.
What would be some of the early indicators that point to such issues?
Well, first of all, it's hygiene, erratic sleeping patterns, no eating, preoccupation with being on a screen. Not going out.
Okay, and if we were to revisit the numbers again, a 30% jump in gaming addiction cases since 2019, and most of the patients are youth. So do these statistics reflect a growing problem, like, students dropping out of school due to digital addiction, or young adults delaying their entry into workforce?
I think they do. From my own practice, I've seen a number of young people that perhaps are getting more and more immersed with gaming. I think a lot of it is to do with the gaming itself. I think gaming developers are kind of very smart at developing more and more addictive games. And another part is the competitive nature of the modern landscape. I think some young people feel very stressed about kind of trying to fit in the working world.
And how do you handle such cases at your clinic?
Well, it's important to look at the underlying issues. Often people have undiagnosed ADHD or autism or things like depression, anxiety, where we're describing as a phenomenon which has multiple causes. So it depends on what's the underlying issue, and then we try to address the root.
Are there like a similar pattern that you see in most cases?
Yeah, I mean, normally people are very introverted. Sometimes there's family issues, family trauma, divorce. People may just use gaming as a way to block the feelings.
At which point do these cases or do these addictions become harmful in your opinion? Can these addictions lead to more serious issues such as theft, for example, or violence against intervention?
Absolutely. I've had clients that stole from the parents, people that got aggressive because the parents maybe turned off the device. Lack of sleep, lack of eating can definitely affect mental health, as well as their academic and professional future. And it can also lead to wider kind of addiction issues, I think, in some cases. So it can kind of transfer to gambling, for example. Some of these games have a gambling kind of element to that with loot boxes and microtransactions.
So do you view this as a growing safety concern in Singapore?
I think so. I think it's a growing safety concern in general. In Singapore, there's quite a lot of competition educationally, and I think that's probably a factor. I think so.
So you were saying earlier that environment at home, school culture, personality affects one's addiction or one's obsession with gaming. How do you tackle such issues then? How do you approach these cases at your clinic?
I think we have to start with calm inquiry, compassion and kindness. Whether we are therapists or parents or professionals or teachers, often there's reasons for this behavior. And instead of kind of jumping into judgment, we should try to inquire things like, okay, why are you doing this? What do you get out of it? What's the benefit for you? And then try to slowly unpack what is going on for this person.
Are you worried that this issue is likely to worsen over time? What do you think are some of the broader societal implications if there are fewer people being productive, functioning members of the society?
I think it's a huge issue. I was just looking at the statistics recently, and I saw that the ratio of people that can support seniors is going down in Singapore. I think almost half. I think from 6 to 3.6. So I think that's a serious concern, that people are dropping out, so to speak, from education and employment and training. I heard another statistics, 1 in 25 young people, 15 to 24, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not in educational training. I think it's very concerning. Gaming and gaming addiction can provide an outlet for these people, a way for them to stay where they are and kind of make them stuck in some way. So I think it's a real issue, especially with AI and new immersive virtual reality technologies. It'll be harder and harder to fight this epidemic, I think.
And there are more social media platforms also now, right?
Right.
TikTok, Instagram. Let's talk about intervention then. How much of a role do family members, schools, teachers play in helping to intervene, helping to create that safe environment for these young gamers?
Yeah, I think it's a major factor. A lot of gaming addiction is isolation. But at the same time, people find a community online, they find some friends, they kind of substitute the social interaction throughout the screen. So having real interactions is a very important way to try to reset these people back into the real world, so to speak.
Having real interactions then. Okay, so For family members who are encountering signs and are concerned about their loved ones, what kind of support is available to them?
Okay, so first of all, there's REACH teams for the schools. There's also private healthcare providers like us. And there's also a lot of resources online that they can access. The polyclinics as well, there's some initiatives that have been developed that can definitely support this demographic.
All right, Mr. Maniatis, thank you so much for coming in tonight and speaking with us.
That
was Tom Maniatis, Senior Psychotherapist for Addictions at Promises Healthcare.